So it's with great pleasure that I introduce our first speaker, Leona Murphy. Leona is the Chief Strategy Officer at IAG. Outside of IAG, Leona is co-chair of the board for the United Nations Environmental Programme's Finance Initiative for the Principles of Sustainable Insurance. In addition, she is a member of the Business Advisory Council for World Vision Australia and a director of the Australian Insurance Association. Leona joined IAG's executive group in 2007, and she has over 20 years industry experience. Leona was recently named one of Australia's top 100 women of influence for 2015. Please join me in welcoming Leona to the stage.
Before we start this morning, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we're meeting and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. Good morning everyone, I'm Leona Murphy and I have the great pleasure of being IAG's Chief Strategy Officer. In my role, I'm very fortunate to help our organisation make strategic choices about the future success of our organisation today and into the future. But at IAG, success is not just about financial success. For us, success is about creating a long-lasting difference in the communities in which we operate, making them safer, stronger and more confident. Essentially, ensuring that we leave society in a better place as a result of our existence. So I'm delighted to be here to talk to you today about business done better. And at IAG, business is done better through our desire to be a purpose-led organisation and the difference that that makes for us, not just for our people, but provides us with a competitive advantage, as well as creating safer, stronger and more confident communities. So there's three things that I'll do for you today. I'll talk a little bit about what being a purpose-led organisation is all about and the critical role that culture plays in that. I'll also talk to you a bit about IAG's transformation journey that we've been on, and I'll do that through the lens of purpose and the lens of culture. And then I would like to talk a little bit about some examples, some practical examples that our businesses are undertaking that actually brings all of this to life. So let's get started. It's our view at IAG that great organisations are built on a foundation of shared purpose. Now, with leaders who understand how to lead with purpose and people who understand how to fulfil that purpose by the actions that they take every day. Now, it's not the cleverness of a purpose that actually is really meaningful. It's the ability for people to connect authentically to it, to help them use that as their guiding rail for decisions every day. It's about the culture of an organisation and how people embrace it and use its purpose. A critical element of IAG's success and a critical part of our history. Now, purpose is not an abstract idea. It's actually something that's concrete and is a fundamental ingredient that is necessary to harness to create a truly great company. Now, let me put that assertion into some facts. We'll all probably remember the seminal work of Jim Collins in Good to Great, where Jim Collins looked at organisations across America wanting to understand what creates a truly great company. So what he did, he looked at greatness through the lens of those companies that outperform the share market and outperform their peers over time. So he pulled together in excess of, I think it was close to 1,400 organisations that he researched at the time, and looked at their performance, looked at their relative performance, and looked at that over a 40-year period. Now, the results were quite interesting because only 11 companies came out of that to be truly great. Now, at the same time, Raj Sisodia and his colleagues were asking a similar question, but with a very different focus. So Raj asked the question is, why do people really love companies? And who are the companies that people really love? Not just like, but love. Companies where customers will go out of their way to be loyal to them. So they conducted their research and they looked at organisations across the world looking at those companies that people loved that created true success. And it came down to only a handful of companies that could qualify as being loved. Whole Foods Markets was one, Southwest Airlines was one, BMW and IKEA. But he then took his work to the next stage and said, okay then, how do these companies perform against good to great companies and against the stock market as a whole? And the results were quite interesting. So he looked at financial performance over the period of 1998 to 2013. Now we need to be mindful of the period of time in which he's talking here. So we have a dot-com bubble and burst, and we have the global financial crisis. So some quite volatile results that existed during that time. So in that he discovered the financial results or the cumulative returns for those organisations over that period. For the stock market was 188%. For good to great companies, 216%. So it's good to see that the good to great companies actually outperform the stock market, although some of the good to great companies were part of the GFC, but that's a conversation for another day. But the firms of endearment, as Raj called them, those companies that people truly loved, had a significantly outperformance at 1,600%. So their cumulative returns were 1,600% over that same period of time. So not only do customers love these companies, but the financial returns far exceed anyone's expectations. So a little bit of facts that actually demonstrate that purpose is not just about doing good and feeling good, it's actually about business done better. Or to quote Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. But for people to buy why you do it, you have to have the entire organisation lined up. Now, interestingly, this theory is not why IAG set out to be a purpose-led organisation. Happened to come across this theory as part of my research as we've been going down this path for a while, but it's not why we started. The reason we're becoming a purpose-led organisation is because of a burning ambition our executive team had to create one clarifying, unifying and motivating purpose for our organisation, something that all of our people can line up behind. The desire to unify behind a purpose actually can only happen if you have all of your cultural drivers lining up. So your leadership practices, your management practices, your systems, your processes, your symbols, your rituals, your behaviours, the way in which you communicate actually has to be lined up to, in our instance, purpose. So one of the things that, let me tell you a little bit about IAG and its transformation journey. Because having this desire to create this unifying purpose, our executive team decided that they needed to search for meaning. So what do you do when you're searching for meaning? You go to India. So the executive team went to Mumbai, India to get a very different lens on business, a very different lens on the cultural sensitivities and the disparity and the nature of business in a different environment. But importantly, a nature of cultural differences which were going to be important in our next stage of our journey. So we went to India and we saw many things which were inspirational and incredibly motivational, but personally very moving. And it made us realise that our role had to extend beyond just providing products and services to the people who buy our products from an insurance perspective. That we did have a very big role outside of just the protection element of insurance. That we actually should be here to create safer, stronger and more confident communities and have an impact on the communities and the countries in which we operate, which is very different to what we were doing today. So it was against this backdrop back in January 2014 that our transformation journey really began. And we began asking ourselves some very important questions. Questions like, why do we exist? What is our reason for being? And why is the world going to be a better place because IAG is in business? And we came up with a very clear view on that. And that is, IAG exists to help make your world a safer place. That is our purpose, that is our reason for being. Now, our purpose is all about being there at the time of your greatest need, not just as a customer, but as communities more broadly. However, a transformation was not just about purpose. Critical part of it, of course, but there's a few other things happening at the same time. So we had fortunate enough to acquire the Wesfarmers insurance business, which made us the largest general insurance company in Australia and New Zealand. Now, that shift is pretty enormous for us, and it meant that we needed to have a new strategy and we needed to have a new operating model and therefore a new structure in which to execute on that. So we've got a desire to be purpose-led, create a culture that actually lines up to that, going to integrate a new business and completely changing strategy and operating model all at the same time. That's a pretty large undertaking. So we started three things. Just on 18 months ago now, transformation journey began, and I was fortunate enough to be the person leading that. We looked to embed our purpose, to integrate the Wesfarmers acquisition, and implement a new operating model. Now, it is a lot to do. A lot to do. Now, if you think about it, what we were trying to do is ask people to look to the future, be inspired by purpose, and be future-oriented and excited, whilst at the same time potentially impacting 15,000 people's jobs. So if you think about the circumplexes that we were just looking at before, what's likely to happen there? People are likely to actually go into security needs. And I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the results that we got, and that will actually play out. But so a big undertaking for us, but one that actually I think has been a turning point for our organisation and a wonderful opportunity for us from a culture perspective. So let's talk a little bit about culture. Now, OCI isn't a new tool for IAG. We've been using OCI for a few years now. And what we did at the time of transformation was decided that I needed to have some advice. So got all of what I would call my friendlies and who I'd worked with in recent times together to look at what are some of the things that organisations have done well in transformation? What are some of the learnings that actually exist in transformation efforts across the globe? And if you consider IAG's culture, what is it that we might need to think about doing differently or be really mindful of in relation to the way our culture is going to respond to the change, but also importantly the things we physically have to do as a result of our culture to ensure that we embed the change. So as part of that, I asked Corinne Cantor from Synergistics to come in and give me some advice and the team some advice on what her reflections would be. So we started with what our results were, and as you can see here, our journey has been quite a pleasing one, and Human Synergistics tell us that to go from where we were in 2012 to where we are in 2000, or where we were in 2014, looks like a minor shift, but for an organisation the size of IAG, that's actually quite a large shift. Seeing constructive styles actually be the predominant style for us in our organisation, which is actually was a good platform for us to actually start transformation on. So with a predominant culture that is constructive, in that it's relational and supportive, and people at IAG would say nice. So we had some positive things to actually leverage on, gave us a great lens to look at transformation. However, we also have some other colours in that circumplex, to be fair, so we needed to be mindful of what those other things in our culture were telling us. So secondary style is competitive, or was competitive, and actually where there are winners and losers, where being seen is really important, and as is always trying to be right. So stepping into the transformation, being very mindful of the landscape in which we were operating in, actually was fantastic and caused us to really think differently about how we led through transformation. So the strong advice that we had was that we really need to amplify those positive elements of our culture. So that relational side of our business, and really amplify inclusion and involvement of our people and create shared meaning. Pretty lucky, because shared meaning is purpose. So that was actually a stroke of luck rather than design, but really pleasing to see that this was not only going to have a positive impact on the way in which we serve our customers and our communities, but actually have a really positive impact on the culture that we create in our organisation. So based on this advice, we then spent some time going back to the drawing board and saying, okay then, we've had all this great advice, and Corinne was wonderful in giving us her insights. What might we need to do differently in transformation? So we did quite a few things differently. Firstly, we pulled our top 70 leaders in to a full day session going through the what and the why about transformation, to make sure that they were equipped to be able to answer their people's questions, and not only just to get their heads aligned, but to try and get their hearts aligned with what it is that we were doing and what the organisation that we were trying to create. A very important part of any culture journey, as we all know, is leadership, and creating leadership, our people in leadership roles, the opportunity to lead and not actually think that we need to do that for them. The other thing that we did was developed a really strong communication strategy. Now, this communication strategy was it's probably a mixture between a communication strategy and a stakeholder engagement strategy, to be fair, working through who we needed to really work with, who we really needed to get on board, and who really was going to drive influence. So we had communication strategy for our executive team, our broader senior management team, for our people, as well as more broadly the organisation in whole. And that was done in different ways, not just through corporate comms, but through leader-led communication as well. We constantly check the pulse of the organisation. So see on this slide where it's saying that we needed to make sure that we reduce fear, anxiety and defensiveness. Well, the only way you can do that is understand if it is actually rising. So we did we had a pulse check very regularly in the transformation program, where it wasn't just, we weren't sending out online survey tools, because all people do are tick and flick and off they go, and you don't really get the depth of insight which is useful. We did phone interviews, so we had an external organisation to ensure anonymity, call up a section of our people right through the organisation that was statistically significant for those statisticians in the room, to give us views to ask questions about their experience around transformation, but also, when we got answers, to go into the next level of detail, to ask more questions, to probe, to get those deeper insights. And that was fabulous, because what that enabled us to do was know whether fear, anxiety and defensiveness was actually rising, and if it was, what we might need to do in different parts of the organisation to actually address that. Because you might have a little bit of a fire over here and everyone's cool over here, so what do we actually need to do to meet the organisation where it's at, rather than actually manage change in a blanket way. We also created the new organisation. So we had to do a structure and operating model, but rather than, all those wise ones in the room do that, we created cross-divisional working groups to actually get the people who were going to live and work in the operating model, design the ways of working, design how the new structures were going to operate, and pull that all together. We also spent some time doing something that we hadn't done before, actually, and that was opening out all of our structures in draft form for consultation to our whole organisation. If our people needed inclusion and involvement in whatever the answer was going to be, it was really important that we gave them an opportunity to have a say. Now, it's a bit daunting doing that in an organisation that has 15,000 people, but we did it, and you know what? We got so many wonderful and rich insights from our people that we made some significant changes to our structures as a result of their feedback. And so what's good about that? People are involved, and we get a better business outcome as well, because the original structures weren't going to work the way in which we anticipated them to. So that was a really good outcome from a transformation perspective. We also took inclusion to a new level at IAG by actually opening up and asking our people to tell us, what does it really mean to work at IAG? So what is the secret sauce, one of my colleagues calls it, the secret sauce of IAG, and what is it that we should aspire to be? So a little bit of a mixture of where we are now and the greatness of who we are, but actually, what do we aspire to be and who do we want to become? And we actually ended up then describing our culture very differently. So we don't really use the word culture a lot at IAG anymore. We use the words IAG spirit. So if the purpose is why we exist, the IAG spirit is all about how we serve our customers and how we serve our people and how we serve our communities. So we opened up, as I said, to all of our organisation to be involved in this. Now, IAG has grown over a number of years. There's a variety of acquisitions and have come from different starting points, as have the way in which we describe who we are, what our values are, and why we exist. So we had ambitions, we had attitudes, we had behaviours, we had values, we had hallmarks, we had capabilities, we had leadership behaviours. Now, how confusing is that for 15,000 people, trying to get everyone lined up to the one thing, right? It's pretty hard for people to work out what are the things I should be paying attention to. So we decided to actually remove all the clutter and remove all the noise, and also empower our people to tell us who we actually are and how that's going to help us make your world a safer place. So our spirit is captured in 3 simple words: closer, braver, and faster. So closer in the way in which we work together with each other and our customers and our communities, braver in the way in which we face the future, and faster in the way we get stuff done. Importantly, in the development of our spirit, the inclusion and involvement of our people have meant that this has been embraced like none of us would have ever expected. So meetings are happening and people are going, well, I'm going to be braver and I'm going to say this. Well, you know what, I'm going to be faster. I'm not going to write a paper on this, I'm just going to go and do it. I'm going to be closer. I really think I need to meet with you and actually have some understanding of what's happening from your perspective. Our people are making this come alive far better than any corporate communication program ever could. So if our purpose is our compass, I think it's really important for me to call out that IAG is very privileged to work in an industry where we can make a meaningful contribution to people's lives every day. And I can guarantee you 20 years ago, I can say that because I was in the industry 20 years ago, we never would have thought that way. We wouldn't have thought about insurance as actually contributing to having a positive impact in people's lives every day, let alone helping make your world a safer place. But our journey to be purpose-led is not a corporate journey. It's actually a journey for each and every one of our people. And it's a journey, as I said earlier, that needs all those drivers of culture. So our leadership practices, our behaviours, our symbols, our rituals, our processes and our systems, all lining up to helping make your world a safer place. Because purpose is not just about feeling good about what we do. Purpose is actually ensuring that it impacts the decisions that we make, the customer experiences that we create, and the actions that we take every single day. So let me give you a couple of examples. These examples that I'm going to give you actually came out of a social need, really. And good strategy work will show you that if you are wanting to make a material difference, if you're wanting to get a winning strategy, start with a big problem. So we had a big problem. We started this work nearly 2 years ago now with the affordability of insurance. So we had a sector of the community that actually couldn't afford insurance. We essentially have 1 in 20 people who don't have home insurance, and we have 30,000 people every year failing to renew their home insurance. So not only do we have a section of people who can't afford insurance, we actually have a section of the community who actually are not protected, who don't have financial protection for the things that they own. Now that's a big issue in lower socioeconomic category, and one that we believed we were well placed and had a responsibility to fix. So if our role is to help, or if our purpose is to help make your world a safer place, that actually should be whoever you are. It shouldn't be actually restricted only to those people who can afford our products. It actually should be to the community at large. So we decided, well, we're best placed to fix this problem, so let's lean into it. So we did a lot of customer insight and a lot of customer research and looked into what was driving the affordability issue in the lower socioeconomic category, and we came to the very clear realisation that actually it was purely an affordability issue, and that people just could not afford to pay for insurance as it is known today. So we tried to look through this through a different lens. We decided to say, okay then, what if we created a different product? What if we created a different form of insurance that actually could provide these people what they needed? Because what they were telling us they needed is just the knowledge and the confidence and the security that if anything disastrous happened, they would still have a roof over their head. They were less worried about the accidental damage issues and less worried about maintenance issues of their home, and really more worried about the catastrophic events. So we created a product that completely flipped traditional insurance on its head and created Insure Lite, which is our affordability solution for those who can't afford traditional insurance. And what it does is it provides this category of consumer support, comfort, security, that actually if anything big happens, that's the house they'll get built for a very small premium when you compare that to our full cover insurance. And it's not full cover and it's not providing you with all the things that you and I would have in our insurance cover, but it provides this section of the community with exactly what they need. Let me give you an internal one which talks a little bit about culture. So back in April this year, you might recall we had a massive storm surge in New South Wales hitting Sydney and the Hunter Valley region, causing a huge amount of damage. It actually was one of the biggest events that we have seen here in Sydney since the hailstorm back in 1999. So as a business, this causes us with two problems, doesn't it? Remember the problem thing and having to solve problems? Well, the problem for our customers is that we have something like 50,000 claims being phoned into our call centres and 50,000 customers, therefore, actually in distress. The problem internally is we've got 50,000 customers calling us and we don't have that many people to serve them. So, because you don't get 50,000 claims normally. That would take us normally a year to settle 50,000 claims. So I remember being in a performance review session with our leadership team of the business that was actually managing this particular event, and they were talking us through just what they were going to do. So 50,000 claims, not enough people, we're here to help make your world a safer place, what actually are we going to do? And our chief customer officer of that business said, well, I've got a bit of an idea. If our role is to help make your world a safer place, then we need to set ourselves a challenge, because we really respond well to a challenge. So let's have a commitment to settling 90% of these claims in 90 days. And we went, okay, that's interesting. You've got our attention. And I said, oh, well, so how's it? He said, I don't know how that's going to happen, But what I do know is that we're going to have to do things incredibly differently to how we do them today. And we said, OK, then we'll go for it. And he said, well, what are my boundaries? Don't break the law. That's probably the only boundary that we'll give you. Don't break the law. Everything else is fair game. So Anthony Justice and the team went away and developed the 90-day challenge, which was an incredibly uniting opportunity for all of our organisation to be involved. Because remember, not everyone in a corporate like IAG has an opportunity to touch customers every day. They don't get the opportunity to help make your world a safer place the way in which our frontline operators do. So they opened it up to us all. So opened up the opportunity for everyone to take claims calls, lodge claims, interact with customers and help settle claims. So we had people like the CEO of that business and myself actually taking phone calls, lodging claims, settling customers, keeping customers, giving customers peace of mind. And we managed, not just through that effort, but creating some digital solutions to enable our customers to solve some of their own claims as well. We achieved that goal, and we did settle those claims within 90 days. So 45,000 claims settled within a 90-day period. I will say that I think that that's an industry first. But the reason I tell you those two examples is because it gives you an idea of how we're using our purpose not only to make decisions for our customers, but also make decisions internally for our people. And it also shows how our spirit is coming alive around being closer with our customers and communities, braver and faster in the way in which we actually create solutions for them. So where are we now? Our OCI results actually show us some interesting insights, actually, that we still have a bit of a way to go on transformation. And I must say that our CEO, Mike Wilkins, and I saw this and felt depressed. We felt depressed because we'd done all this hard work and effort and actually trying to make sure that we lined the transformation efforts up with what was happening culturally in our organisation, and we didn't really see anything. We didn't really see a shift. So we were a bit depressed. Corinne came in and said, don't be depressed. Because, actually, there are very few organisations that can hold their constructive cultures during the size of the change that you've been through, let alone shift it to be more constructive. So I won't say I felt happy, I'll just say I wasn't depressed. So I was sort of just neutral. But what it did show us is the importance of actually focusing on culture. And so we're still there. So this was taken 9 months into our transformation journey, so probably a little bit premature for me to think it's all going to be fantastic, but you know, one has to dream big. But the good things about the most recent results is our scores in leadership and communication have improved. Increase in shared meaning, yay, purpose is working, and our response organisationally to change and our external adaptability. We still have a few things that we need to focus on how the change actually will enable IAG to continue to meet customer needs, and I think those previous examples are good things that we're amplifying. The need for role clarity, which is not surprising when you throw all of the structures up at the same time and actually embedding new ways of working right across the organisation. So we're working hard on that. And actually working hard on the need for safety and actually giving people freedom to speak up and feel like their voice is heard and that it matters and that it will make a difference. So that's where we're at. This was as recent as April, May this year. So one of the things that hopefully I've done for you today is give you some real insight into what it means to be a purpose-led organisation and the transformation journey that IAG is taking. But I would like to leave you with a bit of a challenge. I would like you to take some time and ask yourself, are you really clear on your organisation's purpose and what its reason for being is? And then the second challenge I'll give you is your culture compatible to this? Because if it's not, it will just remain an aspiration. So to end, I would like to actually close with a video that actually sums up what we do every day and words from our people around what it means to actually work in a purpose-led organisation.
I worked in a similar service industry before, and I am so happy to be with CGU because of what they believe is a customer experience. It is not about numbers. It's not how many calls you take. It's the kind of customer experience you deliver.
One of my apprentices at the time rang me and said there was smoke coming from the building. The actual fire between the hours of 6 and 7 o'clock totally devastated and destroyed this entire building. 8 customers' cars, our own vehicles, our entire stock, just complete loss. There's nothing you can do when you're standing there looking at the pile of rubble. CGU, there was never an argument. It was more a case of, as quickly as we can, get it moving. Now, I dealt with CGU's representative, found him to be very professional. Everything he put on the paper happened. Everything that everybody put on the paper happened. And as I said, till the day I die, they'll have to be the 3 best people I've ever dealt with.
I had a customer where he had a motor vehicle accident and his mother passed away in his arms at the scene of the accident. And I was there as a shoulder for him to cry on, basically, and I was on the phone with him for about an hour. The majority of that hour was not lodging the claim, it was just listening to his grief. And at the end, he actually said to me that if there were more people with a heart like mine, the world would be in a better place.
Okay, so all I've put there for you, insured home has been firebombed, total loss. What I will do, instead of you having to contact the claims department, I will get them to contact you tomorrow regarding emergency accommodation for our insured, just to find out what's happening, because I think you've got enough on your plate at the moment, and I'll get them to contact you. Because we just don't know what state Damien's going to be in tomorrow, do we? It doesn't sound like it's really hit him yet.
No. Yeah. It comes and it goes.
All right, well, that's what I'll do.
Damien did want to say something to you, so can I just put him on the phone?
Certainly can, yes, you can.
I don't know you, but I want to say thank you, all right?
I'm really, really, really sorry. Yeah.
I tried to pull him out of the room, I couldn't get him.
No.
I had his hand and I couldn't get him out.
Yeah, oh my God, you poor man. You tried everything, Damien. It wasn't your fault.
Yeah, I know. Will you tell your supervisor I'm so grateful for what you've done? Thank you, because you've got more than just a person on the other end of the phone.
No, okay. But that's what we're there for. That's what we're here for. All I can do is just wish you and your family the best of luck and just give you my condolences.
At the time, there was quite a bit of bad press as a result of the floods. And I remember rocking up to one of our first assessments. It was a young family of 5, and you could see the home was severely damaged, had a gaping big hole in the roof. All the furniture was just ruined. And there was a stage there where they probably thought they weren't covered. Crops were damaged, so he had no job. When we actually said to them that, look, we've assessed your property, we've deemed it a total loss, and we're going to pay you out X amount for your sum insured, the relief and the fact they went straight into, right, what we're going to do is this, it just represented for me how important our role is.
Cyclone Larry, and on the 20th of March 2006, I won't forget the date, we had 10,000 homes damaged, 3,500 claims we had come in just in business alone. At that time, you had to go above the process. You had to put yourself in the customer's shoes and think to yourself, what is it that I would want? What is it that I would need? It was the greatest and most rewarding experience.
The Victoria hailstorm, the Christmas Day storms, that was a large event for us, and we came in on skeleton staff in the morning and not expecting our phones to be busy. At about 3:30 p.m. the event hit, and our phones went into overdrive. So we had to call in extra staff to make sure those customers got serviced. It was a fantastic response from all the consultants because they came in on Christmas Day, and we were there working, literally 24/7 to service those customers. For us, our priority is the customer, no matter what. So we have to do everything we possibly can to make sure that they're serviced as quickly as possible, even on Christmas Day.
So as Australia and New Zealand's largest general insurer, that's how we make your world a safer place. Thank you.